Hello and welcome to the Daily Callus. My name is Miles Greene. Today is part 3 in a series on root patterns. Today we're going to be looking at the relationship between the 5 root pattern shapes and the 5 minor pentatonic boxes. Now this is extremely helpful for guitar players because knowing where your root notes are up the neck can tell you where your 5 minor pentatonic boxes are as well. And from there you can play your favorite blues or rock licks in each of the boxes. Now, if you haven't already, please check out part 1 on the root pattern series. You may find it a little bit more helpful before jumping into this. And if you're interested in purchasing the visual PDFs that accompany this lesson, please check out my store on Etsy. So without anything more to say, let's go ahead and jump in and look at the relationship between root patterns and the 5 minor pentatonic boxes. So what's really useful to know about root patterns is that once you can determine where your root note is up and down the neck, and of course that will change depending on the key that you are in, you can ultimately figure out where your 5 minor pentatonic boxes are. And for today's example, we're going to be working in the key of C minor. So of course all of our root notes that we're going to be looking at are going to be C notes. And just to quickly review the 5 root pattern shapes, we have root pattern 1 here, root pattern 2, root pattern 3, root pattern 4, and root pattern 5. Now again, what's important to remember is that the pattern shapes will always stay the same. The only variable is essentially the key that you are playing in. So if we were to move to an E, for example, the patterns essentially are the same. We're just moving them around. So if we were in the key of E, root pattern 1 would look like this, root pattern 2, and so on. And again, what's important to notice is really the distance between frets and strings between each of the 5 root patterns. So let's go ahead and take a look at how each of the 5 root patterns correlates with each of the 5 minor pentatonic shapes. And again, we're going to be playing in C minor, so we have our first root pattern here. These are both C notes. So root pattern 1 lines up with box 3 of the minor pentatonic shape, and box 3 looks like this. Okay, moving on to root pattern number 2, we have our root notes here and here. Root pattern number 2 correlates with box 4 of the minor pentatonic shape. So again, if we know we have our root pattern here, we can play box 4, which looks like this. And moving on to root pattern number 3, again we are in the key of C minor here, so we have our C notes here for root pattern 3. I always remember root pattern 3 as sort of this triangle that moves backwards down the neck, and root pattern 3 correlates with box number 5 of the minor pentatonic shape, and box 5 looks like this. And moving on to root pattern number 4. Root pattern number 4, we have our C notes here. This triangle is facing up the neck. And root pattern number 4 correlates with box 1 of the minor pentatonic shape. And box 1, of course, looks like this. And last but not least, we have root pattern number 5. And root pattern number 5 correlates with box 2 of the minor pentatonic shape. And box 2, of course, is shaped like this. So in terms of application, this concept is extremely useful to blues and rock guitar players because, of course, if you know which key the song is in, you can quickly determine where your root patterns are, and from there, which of the 5 minor pentatonic shapes sort of work in each zone of the neck. So let's take a look at 3 quick examples of how using root patterns can help us figure out where to play our favorite blues and rock guitar licks. So for our first example, we are going to be in the key of B. I know that I have a B note here and a B note here. This is root pattern number 5, the one that I'm interested in right now, and I know that root pattern 5 lines up with box 2 of the minor pentatonic shape, and if I know any licks or chords in box 2, I can use them. So for my next example, I'm going to be in the key of D minor, and I know that I have a D note here, and I know that I can apply root pattern 2 to find another one here. And root pattern 2 lines up with box 4 of the minor pentatonic shape, and if I know any chords or licks in box 4, I can play them. So for my next example, I'm going to be in the key of B minor, and I know that I have a root note here, here, and here, which is root pattern number 3, and root pattern 3 lines up with box 5 of the minor pentatonic shape. And if you know any licks or chords in box 5, which if you do, kudos to you, you can play them. So in terms of next steps for those of you who would like to practice at home, what I really recommend doing is number 1, choosing a random note on the neck, number 2, finding the root patterns above and behind that note, and number 3, learning how to apply the correct minor pentatonic box on top of those 2 root patterns. So for example, let's take this note here, which is a D note. I know that I have a root note here and here. And then moving backwards, root pattern 2 tells me I have a root note here and here. So I've identified that I have root pattern 2 and root pattern 3. And then thinking back to the minor pentatonic boxes, root pattern 3 correlates with box 5 of the minor pentatonic shape, which can allow me to play this. And then root pattern 2 can indicate to me that I can play box number 4 on top of that. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you found this video useful and learned a little bit about how the 5 root patterns connect with the 5 minor pentatonic boxes. If you found these videos helpful, or if you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Etsy store. I've put together some visual reference guides and PDFs for guitar players who want to improve their knowledge on pentatonic shapes and versions and other sort of music theory systems. You can also support me directly on Patreon and YouTube. And again, I really appreciate all the support that I've gotten so far. Thank you so much. Till next time.